So the coolest part is several months ago I'm here and I'm on Main Beach with my family and we stumbled into here. And we're enamored with the revitalization of this place. And my mom gets to talking to one of the employees here. They said, we actually rent this out free of charge for non-for-profits on Wednesdays and Friday nights. And hence why we're doing a Friday night event. My apologies, I know that Saturday night events are a lot more conducive to logistics, planning, and travel. But needless to say, hats off to Jennifer and the Rivian team here for opening their doors free of charge and creating an opportunity for us to really thank you, the donors. Tonight, this is special to me. It's not just a night out. Fortunately, my wife was here tonight. We said no kids. Unfortunately, the kids were here, so that's not a good look. But in any case, it's a night out with all of you. And as far as I'm concerned, in a very broken world right now, we get to find alignment in this building tonight with values, a place in our heart, and a real impact that we've all chosen to make together through giving. Tonight is not a fundraiser. I don't want you to feel as if you need to give. I want you to give your heart tonight, your mind, your attention. And so this is really a thank you from me, from the Be Perfect Foundation, for the countless years of memories, support, love. And I want you to really look behind this curtain, your own curtain, of what your generosity has done, and what it continues to do. In the lives of real people with real mountains to climb. You're going to hear 6 stories tonight. 5 amazing ones. I will close, and that one you already know, not so amazing, right? Each of you here, I would like you to know, you've played a pivotal moment in my mountain that I've been able to climb. And for you, this is an evening that we have a way of showing you what you've built. You've taken my mountain, and it's become a hill. It's become an overpass. It's become a bridge. And eventually it became flat terrain for me to move forward. And while I have never really moved on from my injury, and it might be impossible for me to do so, likewise, in the eyes and in the stories of the people you're going to hear tonight, we all, every one of us, not just the 6 of us speaking, but every one of you, we have an opportunity and a choice every day to not just move on, but a deliberate choice to move forward from our circumstances. So, we're going to excel you tonight on an unbelievable lineup of highlight reels and headlines. But tonight, you're going to hear more than just noise. You're going to hear the truth. Because the people you'll meet on this stage, they don't have the luxury of pretending. They've lived through loss, grief, trauma, uncertainty. And they've come out on the other side choosing to fight, to live, and to continue to believe. And so the truth lives in these stories. I will give introductions, but the stories will speak for themselves. It lives in their grind for recovery, in the quiet moments of breakthrough, in the families who refuse to give up, and in the relentless pursuit of life after injury and diagnosis. And the truth about Be Perfect. This is not a pitch. It's not a program, but it's really a promise to meet people at rock bottom and help them rise to climb their mountain. So we don't exist to market miracles. We exist to fund them, to fight for them, and to walk with people climbing impossible mountains every single day. So tonight isn't just about your applause. It's about alignment with truth, people, purpose. So you're going to see what it really means to climb a mountain. And maybe you'll intrinsically look within yourself after tonight and realize you've already climbed your own, or you're in the midst of climbing it right now. Not because you or somebody else could, but because they and you have had to. It's the only choice we've had. So with no further ado, I'd like to bring out our first guest speaker of the night. Chelsea Hill is the CEO and founder of the Rolettes Dance Team. a trailblazing group dedicating redefining what's possible for women with disabilities to return to dance, advocacy, and community. After a spinal cord injury at 17 years old, Chelsea turned her passion into purpose, launching the annual Rolex experience, which I had my opportunity, even as a male, to go and enjoy just a couple of months ago. And yes, this amoeba-looking guy was in a dance class. Some say I went viral, but it might have been for the wrong reasons. Chelsea and her business partner, Joe, who's sitting here in the front row, have built the world's largest women's empowerment weekend for women and children with disabilities. This event, the Rolex Experience, brings together participants for dance classes, panels, workshops, and inclusive, boundless talent showcases for people that can still embody their story and show their talents to the world. So with that in mind, as a content creator, nonprofit leader, and devoted mom, Chelsea leads her life with empathy and resilience, empowering others to break barriers, build community, and live boldly every day. Check out this video as we welcome Chelsea to the stage.
Refusing to let their wheelchairs hold them back, meet the Rolex.
The Rolex.
Oh, Rolex.
And I feel like being able to show the world what you can do through social media is so amazing because we're lucky that we have that type of voice now. But it's become this movement and this company and this team to empower women with disabilities to live boundlessly and shift perspective through dance.
Rolex Experience Camp, which sees hundreds of girls from all over the world come together for 3 days of fun, friendship, and dancing.
You all doing good? Well, I'm so honored to be here tonight, and I know tonight is about sharing stories that move mountains. And my story started February 22nd, 2010, about 18 hours after I became paralyzed. And I remember that moment so vividly. I was actually sleeping. I had a nightmare. And I was in so much pain in my dream that I woke up crying and not realizing that I was in the hospital. And I was in so much pain, and I was like, "Dad, help, help, help. I can't feel my legs." And my dad rushed over to my bedside in the hospital and trying to calm me down. And I remember this moment like it was yesterday. And once he got me calm, and I was talking to him, and I said, "Dad, why me? Why did I have to become paralyzed? Why can't I feel my legs? I knew what I wanted to do in life. I knew I wanted to be a dancer. I knew I wanted to move to Los Angeles and pursue a passion for dance." And my dad, standing over my bedside, staring at his only child, his baby girl that hadn't even graduated college or high school, just about to start her adult life, said something to me that night that was such a pivotal moment for me. He said to me, "I don't know, honey, maybe you're supposed to change someone's life." And still to that day, it was so incredibly powerful because in that moment he could have said, I don't know. But what he gave me that night was hope. Hope that maybe there's a reason behind this. Hope that maybe I can change someone's life. And for the first time, after hearing I was paralyzed, after hearing that my life was going to be different, I finally felt like I had some light at that end of the tunnel, there was a reason for something. And in that moment, I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to walk again. I'm going to walk again. I'm going to do everything in my power. I'm going to walk again, and then I'm going to dance again. And that hope gave me the power and the drive to figure out, okay, well, what's next? I got home from the hospital, found out about a facility down here, the Perfect Step, found out about it, and I said, well, if I want to walk, I need to go there because the Perfect Step was the best of the best. The facility was the number one place to go to with a spinal cord injury. So I looked it up, applied for a scholarship, and I got a scholarship. And I remember getting that email, finding out that I was going to be able to have the chance to do some sort of recovery. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I had a chance and I had hope. So I went to the Perfect Step, and I remember going in there, and I remember rolling in, and I remember looking on the right, and I remember seeing a desk. I remember seeing the receptionist, and the desk was my level. I know it's kind of normal now these days to have, an ADA desk, but for me, I was new to the community. And then I remember looking over, and I remember seeing someone standing next to their wheelchair with their knees locked out. And I was like, are they paralyzed or not? And then I look in front of me and I see someone crawling on the ground with their chair behind them with weights strapped to their ankles to build muscle. And I was like, well, that's cool. And then I look over and I see someone stretching out, hanging from their feet. And I was like, what is this place? And later I learned that it's good to do that. But I had no idea what I was going into. But what I saw other individuals that were just like me, that had spinal cord injuries, that had the same goal, to walk. And for me, that gave me another sense of hope, that I could roll into a facility and everyone was at a level playing field. Everyone was working towards the same goal, regaining something, walking something. But what I also was in at that point was I was in denial of what my life was. I had no hope of what my future was other than just walking at that point. And so for me, going into the facility and meeting my trainer, I still remember my trainer to this day. And I remember meeting him and I was like, he's definitely a little more standoffish. He's this big buff guy. Didn't smile. I'm sure if you're a trainer here, you probably know who I'm talking about. Didn't smile, nothing. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna try and make him laugh. And I worked out with him for a few years. And I remember transferring onto this bench. And it was a, level bench. And I remember we were working on this all the time. And he would say, okay, I need you to kick your leg out. And I'm like, don't you remember I'm paralyzed? I can't kick my leg out. And it was like lifting 1,000 pounds that I couldn't feel, but I was trying to lift 1,000 pounds and kick this leg out. And one day, I got a reaction. He goes, oh, you did it. And I looked at him and I said, did what? What did I do? And he said, I'm so sorry. He said, you just moved your leg. And I said, I did? How? He said, I don't know, but you did. And not only did I get a reaction from him, but I also got hope. I got hope from someone that I didn't think I could get hope from. And he was the most incredible trainer because every step of the way, he encouraged me and he gave me hope. I remember going onto this machine bike Well, at the hospital, they told me that I couldn't use this machine because my muscles wouldn't contract. I'm a complete injury, blah, blah. And they said, no, we're just still going to do it. I said, okay. And about a few months later, going on it every time, my muscles started to contract. My point with all of this is going to the perfect step gave me hope. And I think till this day is still one of the most important things you can give someone with a life-altering injury or diagnosis, and that's hope. And I remember one of the days driving home when my scholarship was about to end, and I came to this mental fork in the road. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I'm not walking yet, but what's next? What am I going to do? And I thought to myself, well, I always wanted to move to Los Angeles and I always wanted to be a dancer, so let's do that route. And that's exactly what I did. I found the most well-known dance studio in Los Angeles and booked a class, showed up, and I remember rolling through the doors going, okay, I can do this. I got this. I rolled up to the desk. I was this high. And it was one of the first moments where I was like, this is not the perfect step. This is not made for me. And I said, okay, I'm going to take the beginner class at, it was like 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I rolled in. And every single person in that studio looked at me like I did not belong there. They looked at me like, why is this girl in a wheelchair at a dance class? Long story short, killed the choreo. But I left there and I felt defeated. Not because of the choreo, but because of the way that everyone made me feel. They made me feel like I didn't belong. The choreographer didn't see me. The people in the room didn't even talk to me. It was like I was not even there. And I got in my car and I sat there and I cried 10 minutes. And I just said, why me? This is obviously not the perfect step. This is real life, and it wasn't made for me. And I remember getting home, and I said, okay, I have 2 options. 1, close the curtains, give up dance, never do it again, forget about it. Or 2, go back to the studio, book the same class, wait in line to meet the choreographer, and make sure that I introduce myself to the choreographer and that they know exactly who I am by name. I'm sure you can guess which one I did. So, met the choreographer, said, hi, I'm Chelsea, and I was a dancer before my accident. And something in them shifted. They go, oh. And I'll never forget that moment because it was the first time that I really had to grant someone grace. Because it wasn't about me. It wasn't about their class. It was purely just being able to grant this person grace that did not know anything about me in a new city. And I remember on the drive home from that going, okay, I'm going to keep going back and I'm going to train and I'm going to make sure that everyone in that room knows who I am because I can be just as good as everyone else with just half the use of my body. And I remember from that moment, I then found other girls, brought them in, they were wheelchair users. But my point with all of this is all along the way, I was given hope. And that hope led me to build a wheelchair dance team, the Rolettes, which now we have Rolettes Experience, which is the largest women's empowerment weekend for women and children with disabilities. And to be able to say that is truly crazy for me because it didn't start that way. But if I think about, when I was thinking about what I was going to say tonight, going back to the roots of who I was when I was going to this facility. If I had never gotten the opportunity to have a scholarship, to be able to go and work out and train, I would have always wondered, what if? I would have always wondered, what if I blank? And for me, I think about that little 17-year-old that was like, I'm gonna walk again, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna be that miracle. But I got something else that I think is so much more powerful for me. I didn't walk, but I got a sense of hope. And because of going to the Perfect Step, I got dance back. I was able to go there, not knowing that I was learning this, but I was able to go there and learn independence. I got mentally strong, physically strong, emotionally strong. I met an entire community of other people like me, and that is priceless. And it's because of people like you that are donors, that sponsor, that give your time, energy, love, passion to be able to have a facility like this for us. And so because of people like you, I got the opportunity to dance. So thank you.
Tough act to follow. Chelsea's an unbelievable woman, as you can see, and what can you possibly share about your story in 10 to 12 minutes? You just saw a tip of the iceberg of all that Chelsea has done to impact not just the lives of the paralysis community, not just impact the lives of those that are young women looking for a bit of hope, but also people throughout the world. You might have picked up on it, but she also was a part of the opening ceremonies at the most recent Olympic Games as a wheelchair dancer in the choreographed scene. She is the pinnacle, and that is Chelsea Hill. Rosa Tomaszek, our next speaker, has always been passionate about the disability community. With a degree in advocacy and rhetoric and a minor in psychology, her early career years were spent as an advocate and caseworker for people with disabilities. When she became a mom of 3, her focus changed to stay home full time. Little did she know that she would become a part of the disabled community in a very different way. In 2022, Rosa's life changed when 3 tragedies in her life occurred in just a 2-month span. Her most heartbreaking one was the sudden loss of her 19-year-old son, followed by becoming paralyzed 3 weeks later. While grieving in the hospital, her beloved mom died, leaving Rosa with a mountain of grief and sadness. She decided to lean into what she had thought not only her past clients, but her children as well might have thought. And that is finding purpose in the pain and being your own hero. Please welcome to the stage, Rosa Tomaszek.
Life is beautiful, isn't it? Life is exhilarating. It can also be heartbreaking, and it can be unexpected. Life does not discriminate at any moment, at any given time. Any one of us will face a mountain, a treacherous mountain to climb. Those mountains are meant to break us, to leave us hopeless, to take away our purpose, and to take away our fight for this gift of life if we let it. But what happens if we flip the narrative? What happens if we lean into everything truly happens for a reason? What if when the storms happen, you lean into them, you face them head on, you fight to get through it to the other side? What if all your hopes and dreams that you've carried through your life came to fruition, but not in the narrative that you've expected? What if all those hurdles that were made to break you down, all those obstacles that were meant to weaken you, what if they were really rerouting you to the life that you were supposed to be living? the life that you had no control over. Because let's face it, we cannot control every aspect of our life. Would you be able to realize if it was happening to you? Would you be able to connect the dots? If faced with that mountain, would you be willing to climb over it to see what's on the other side? Would you choose to live life fully? Tonight, I'm sure so many of you can share this story with me about being assigned a topic in school. It's that of writing about your life. It happened many times over the course of our grade school, junior high, and high school years. It starts as early as preschool and kindergarten. What do you want to be when you grow up? Preschool, I wanted to work in the zoo. I wanted to live with the monkeys because my mom tells me apparently I had a passion for monkeys. Kindergarten, I wanted to be a mommy, and that never changed. 6th grade and 12th grade, those are a little bit more complicated, but the one that stands out the most is the one that happened in 6th grade. And I think it's because of the rhetoric that my teacher used around it. She said, this is a rite of passage. Think of it as a thesis about your life to promote to 7th grade when the reality of life really happens. That's when you become a young adult. She wanted us to be creative and talk about where do you see your career taking you? And what is the career that perhaps society or parents have expectations for you to do, but that you really don't want to do? First one, easy. Since 2nd grade, I had always been involved in theater and dance. Oh, I loved that community. It gave me a sense of belonging. It gave me life. See, I had 2 very loving parents, but I was one of 2 children. My brother's considerably older than me, and we were never close. So often I felt like an only child, and it was very, very lonely. What I was really looking from the theater community is that sense of family, a sense of belonging, a sense of being embraced and loved. Community is the key word. The second part of the story is the careers that I did not want. I never wanted to go into education or social work. My father was a college professor of bilingual education, and my mom was a school specialist that focused on immigration, assimilation, and learning language. I saw the amount of work, the amount of overtime that they put in. They put their heart and soul into their professions, but that did not equal a monetary value for them. Financially, we struggled, and I will admit it, I was resentful. In high school, I wanted to fit in. I wanted the trendy outfits. I didn't want my friends to tell me that they weren't inviting me to Disneyland because my parents couldn't afford to pay it. I wanted to be able to go out to every excursion and not feel left out. I didn't have to express my resentment. I would have never done that to my parents because I respected them so much. But as any good parent knows, they see right through their child, and they did something about it. They gave me one of the greatest gifts that they could ever have done. With their connections to student centers, they had me start volunteering at the age of 12 with students who couldn't read and write very well. I continued doing that all through middle school and all through high school, which eventually led to a part-time position in college with the migrant education program. There, I got the opportunity to go into homes, more like apartments or converted garages, where there was families of 10 to 12 sharing one bathroom. I was there help to support the kids so they wouldn't fall behind in school, and to teach the parents to have their children become successful in education. Those students, they did not care about any of that. Do you know what would concern them and what they wanted to talk to me about? About not fitting in. About their parents not having the money for a second or third outfit for them to wear to school, so they wouldn't be picked on because they wore the same 2 outfits all week long. To have a second pair of shoes. My gosh, my mountains turned into a molehill that day. It sparked a passion in me, one that I realized I would never take. The very thing I fought against was the very thing I ended up doing. Now, theater, that went to the side. It still was a passion, but I finally understood why my parents were guiding me against it. They were trying to protect me. They knew what a cutthroat world it was. They knew that talent and hard work did not equate to a job. They didn't want me to see me get disappointed or hurt or taken advantage of. Like any parent, They wanted to protect me from the pain. So I dove all in. And that led me to becoming a social worker, but really focusing on advocacy. My first job out of college was with the disabled community. I had 150 clients on my list, and I was expected to see them 2 to 3 times a year. Some of those clients still stand out so brightly in my mind. It was a 2-year-old boy that at birth was dropped by the doctors. It left him blind and deaf and paralyzed. He was the love of his mother's life. The father couldn't face the mountain that had been placed upon him. He refused to climb it, so he left. She never complained. All she did was express gratitude for the services that she was receiving. All she wanted to do was connect with me and not feel so alone, that someone was there to be there with her through the journey. She handled her mountains with grace and eloquence, something I will never forget. The next client is a 17-year-old young man that was riding on the back of a motorcycle and was hit by a car. He was left with a severe brain injury, unable to talk, feed himself, diapers that his parents had to change. His parents would wait and tell me if they could just turn back time and make their son whole again. The last one I remember most, his name was Michael. He was 23 when I met him. He was autistic, incredibly bright. He could sing or recite any Michael Jackson song. But what he lacked was emotional and social skills. And when he got frustrated, he would his head over and over repeatedly. So his parents didn't see his life as worthy, and they dropped him off in a group home and forgot about him. Michael was always excited to see me during my visits. He was always friendly, loving, and kind. I learned so much from this community that was incredibly invaluable. But I would also come home at night and weep because I wanted to save them. I wanted to change them. I didn't want them to have this pain. When I became a mom, I decided to not work anymore and just completely focus on what motherhood meant. During every single pregnancy, I prayed over that little baby in my belly saying, God, please, let them be healthy. Let them know a joyful life. May they not know pain. That's really unrealistic. Because as we know, I had no control over life. Not in that sense. Little did I know how life would knock me off my feet, literally and figuratively. 3 years ago, on April 22nd, my 19-year-old son died unexpectedly. It robbed my world and left me sobbing on the floor, face down, not wanting to live. I told my mom, I cannot get through this, and said, Rosa, you have to find it in you. You cannot give up. You have 2 other children looking at you to see what's next. You have the husband that needs you, and I did not care. All I wanted to do was make the journey to heaven and be with that son. I hope none of you ever have to know that pain of losing a child. And if you do, I am so sorry, because it is a grief that one can never truly ever overcome. 3 weeks later, 2 days after my son's funeral, my 16-year-old daughter and I were going to the market just on a casual Monday when a reckless driver hit us head on. I thought to myself, oh my God, did I manifest this? My wish to die, is it really happening now? But all I could think about too was my daughter. Please God, do not take her from me. That I could not handle. She was fine. I was not. I was paralyzed, waist down. But I still thank God every single day that it's me and not her. I've already had the opportunity to live many of my years. She hasn't, and I'll gladly take that for her and from her. The isolation that I felt in the hospital, the loneliness because it was COVID, was more than I could handle. I kept calling out to the doctors, to the nurses, to anyone that could come visit me to please do not let me have surgery. Just please, I beg of you. I cannot do this. I cannot do this life. We're not meant to be able to handle that amount of grief. Our brains are not conditioned for that. Well, just when I thought that I was just climbing Mount Baldy, all of a sudden it was the Swiss Alps when my mom died. She knew she was dying. And before she did, she looked at me and she said, Rosa, I want you to live. Not just survive, but I want you to live. There is still so much beauty in life. This injury does not have to take that from you. The death of Andre, that doesn't define you. My God, was she right? This life isn't easy. I live in chronic pain. Would I trade it to go back and not be paralyzed? I'm not too sure. I for certain would trade back anything to get my son back. But let me tell you, the community that I have met is one of a kind. I live amongst heroes. I live amongst the most incredible souls that have battled the toughest situations that you can imagine. These people that I have opportunity now to call my friends have given me life, have given me just the power to know that I can survive and I can live. I know there are so many out there right now that are facing mountains that seem insurmountable, that are incredibly painful, and so many of you suffer in silence. There is a community out there for you if you're willing to face it. I want to take a moment, and perhaps some of the pictures and stories that we're going to reflect upon can resonate with you. You can find your inner child, your inner voice, or connect with them. Do you believe in thanking yourself, your younger self, all the different versions? Let's take a look. Second grade Rosa, the little girl that had dreams of being in theater, of being on the stage. Do you know why I thank her? Because she gave me the voice, she gave me the power to be here tonight, to not fear speaking in front of an audience. Without the dreams of that version of myself, I don't know that I would have been able to do this. To not have the fear of looking silly in whatever outfit that you may be wearing. This little girl still gives me so much inspiration to not give up on my dreams. 18-year-old me, I thought I knew the world. I really did. I thought I had it all figured out. And remember when I talked about the migrant program? How it humbled me? This aspect of my life, what aspects of your life have you come across where you say, oh my gosh, I had it all wrong. I didn't have it all figured out. This version of me allowed me to see that, you know what, at the end of the day, we're all the same. Financially, some of us might have more than others, but our hearts, our desires, our sadness, our weaknesses, do they really differ that much from one another? The favorite version of myself. When I became a mom, the greatest gift, the hardest job, the biggest blessing. These three little souls that were gifted to me have given me so much. They've taught me that their mountains are my mountains. For any of you that are parents or grandparents, you know that when your children hurt, you hurt for them. You even hurt more than them, and you would do anything possible for them to not feel the pain. I thank them for allowing my heart to grow double and triple than I ever thought possible. My beautiful blessings. My beautiful, beautiful boy. He has taught me more than any other experience I've had in life. He left this earth too soon, but what he has given me is the ability to know that that surviving the impossible is possible. I can't wait to be reunited with him in heaven. These versions of myself before the accident, they allowed me to see just how much life I lived, how many opportunities I had, how many things I really took for granted, the simple things, working legs, being able to just carefully spontaneously get up and do whatever I wanted, not have to think about when I'm going to use the bathroom next. Marriage, it looks a lot different when you're injured, but it doesn't mean that it has to be completely different. What would your marriage look like if all of a sudden everything that you knew to be true changed? I challenge you to ask that question. Your vows of through sickness and health and forever till death do us part, would they still stand in place? That man is still sitting in the audience tonight, and we're as thankful for one another. He's not a hero. I'm not either. We're each other's heroes, the way it's meant to be. The day of the accident, the day everything changed. I'm not the only one in here that's faced that, and I won't be the last. Because again, life is unexpected. It happens. In the hospital, the people by your side, would you be there for your beloved if this time ever came? Would you be able to face all the challenges and emotions that come with this? My daughter was 16 at the time. Her brother had just died. She sat at my side every single day at the hospital, teaching me just how resilient a young woman can be. She taught me about empathy in ways that I had never known. My family, coming together, dogs included, to stand by one another as we faced this mountain together. But here is where I have drawn the most power. It's being able to have plugged into a community that I have found a perfect step. Without the compassion, the kindness, the embracing of what I now call my family, I seriously say this all the time to Hal. You've saved my life over and over again. I really do not think I could have done this had I not had the love and support of this community. The smile says it all. Learning to walk again is not for the weak. But they bring joy into my life when they're teaching me about resilience, teaching me about climbing that mountain, and that I'm still whole. I'm not broken. My back is, but my spirit is not.
It's an unbelievable mom, wife, mentor, and my friend. Rosa, there is no mountain too large that that woman can climb. This next individual I'm going to introduce you to, you can call it divine intervention. I was at a game just about a month ago, and I was immediately drawn towards this individual's next Christian. And immediately locked eyes with him. And in my natural self, said I need to have a conversation with this guy. So Christian and I shared a conversation. Immediately I was implored by his attitude, his grace, his humility. He's a native of Long Beach, Catalina Island. And he was a commissioned second lieutenant in the United States Air Force. He trained as a combat systems officer in special operations, preparing for high-stakes missions. However, After completing intense survival training, Christian faced one of the most grueling mountains he's ever seen. While diving in the Gulf of Mexico, he suffered a catastrophic injury, shattering his C6 and C7 vertebrae, becoming a spinal cord injury and quadriplegic. Rather than letting this life-altering event define him, Christian chose to adapt and overcome. His injury is a powerful reminder that life can change in an instant, either for better or for worse. But with resilience and determination, we all have the ability to bounce back. Christian now dedicates his life to inspiring others to rise above their challenges, proving that our choices are ultimately what defines who we become. Please join me in welcoming to the stage, Christian.
All right, thank you, Hal. And thank you, Chelsea and Rosa. Those are amazing stories. So first off, I want to look at this one. Okay, my dad, me and my dad he lives on Catalina Islands, and me and him were talking the other day about these tattoos that I've been getting recently. I don't know if he likes it so much, but essentially he's a firm believer that you have to really earn your tattoos. That's just the kind of man that he is, and I think I have. I believe that each of these tattoos that I've gotten reflect a part of who I am. One of the ones that I got recently is on my collarbone. I'm all mic'd up, so I don't want to mess with it too much, but it's Latin, and it says, "Per gusta ara gusta." For those of you who don't speak Latin, roughly what that means to me, or what that can be translated to, is to high places through narrow pathways. And essentially, I think no matter what challenges you're facing, no matter what mountains you're facing, we decide to continue to move forward, to keep climbing. So as Hal said, I was serving, before my injury, I was in the Air Force, flying as a navigator for special operations. And not long after getting my wings, that's when my whole life changed. I would be face to face with one of the biggest mountains that I've ever faced in my life. And that was 2 years ago, May 19th, 2023. I just got back from survival training, right where they throw me and my friends in the middle of nowhere in the woods over in Washington. We learned how to survive off the land. It was essentially to simulate what would happen if a complete went down behind enemy lines. So we had to hunt rabbits, catch them, procure on water. We had to, all while evading enemy capture. And in the event that we do get captured, we would be put in a simulated prisoner of war camp, simulating interrogations, isolations, physical stressors, and psychological stressors, and just learn how to resist type of, it wasn't exactly torture, but I mean, in the moment, that's what it felt like. And how to still remain cool under all that pressure. Returning home from all that, me and my friends, you're drained. You're just so out of it, and the first thing you want to do is decompress. And the first thing me and my friends did was we got a boat and we took it out to the Gulf of Mexico on base in Pensacola, Florida. And the day was perfect. We were listening to music. It was a sunny day, perfect weather. And I was diving off this boat, and as I was getting ready to make my 5th or 6th dive, I dove too deep. My head slammed into a sandbar, and I broke my C6, C7 vertebrae, paralyzing me from the chest down, and with limited use of my arms and my hands. And there I was, face down in the Gulf of Mexico. I couldn't even flip myself over to breathe, and I knew that my next breath would only come once my friends figured out I wasn't joking. So that was pretty scary. I thought maybe, we joke around a lot, so I definitely thought I could drown. But luckily, maybe what felt like a minute, I felt my friends jump in and finally pull me out. They got me to safety, and they called for help and I got medevac. The next thing I know, I was in the ICU. Here I realized I couldn't do anything for myself, but I was blessed to have my friends and family there. But my mom was helping me feed me. All the nurses were helping me get bathed, get dressed, and everything else. And the first part of that mountain was accepting that my whole life had just changed, that nothing would be the same anymore, and that I would have to decide from that point how to move forward. The second part of that mountain was deciding what comes next. I would have to navigate all this, the hospital system, insurance, military, and all their own separate roadblocks and rules, and none of them communicating well with each other. But luckily, my family was there to help navigate that whole tangled maze, and they did it. They secured the next best thing for me, and that was, I totally forgot I had slides here, sorry. Whoops, that's back. Yeah, so that's day one. That's on the boat. That was literally taking moments before I took off. And that's me, survival training, and in the military. And that's me in the ICU. Yeah, that was just moments after my surgery, totally full of tubes, and still rocking the mustache, as you can see. But right, getting into Chicago, Shirley Ryan, right? And I was so blessed that getting into, as far as my acute rehabilitation, that was arguably one of the best ones in the world. And so I was on a private jet, I got flown out there, and here I was met with structure, which I needed. That was something I was familiar with. That was something I was comfortable with from the military. They would tell me where to go, when to wake up, when to go to my appointments, and when to eat. And that was just amazing. Right here in this photo, that was the first time I was upright for 2 months after my injury, which first thing that happens is your blood pressure drops and you feel like you want to faint, but you get used to it, which those little milestones that come our way, each little achievement is just huge. Here I saw a lot of people in similar places that I was in, some a little bit better, some a lot worse. And the first thing that I saw there was I wasn't alone, and that together, just seeing how motivated they were, how inspirational that was. Another inspirational piece of Shirley Ryan in Chicago was when a young man named Will rolled into my room, and he told me his story. And that's all he wanted to do. It's just part of the peer mentorship program. But he told me how he was cliff diving in Thailand, and his injury was a lot higher, but his whole situation was a lot worse. But yet there he was, confident, motivated, independent. And I knew right there that seed of hope was planted, that if this guy could do it, maybe I can too. But not long after that, just a month into Shirley Ryan, they wanted to send me home, and I wasn't ready. At this point, I had barely maybe was able to get my own shirt on, brush my own teeth, but they're ready to send me home. They wanted to send me home to my mom. She's here in the crowd. And I love my mom, but you spend about 20 years or so wiping your own butt, and I wasn't ready to go back to that. I just couldn't. I knew I needed to get back to full independence, or at least as much as I could. So my family, once again, back to the rescue, made sure to ensure the next piece of rehabilitation, and that was getting into Omaha QLI over in Omaha. And here the momentum continued. I was still met with the same routine, that same regiment, that same structure that I loved, just as much of a motivated community. 6 months into here in inpatient, I did it. I got back to independence. I was able to do everything for myself again, including wiping my butt, so my mom didn't have to. I transitioned from inpatient to outpatient. I got into the VA where I would transition all my care, get all my a lot of adaptive equipment, my wheelchair, and a lot of other things from the military, and I was blessed to have that. And I was able to take my time in getting back to independence. They got me an adapted vehicle, a sweet truck that I could drive my own. And 6 months after that, in outpatient, I was ready. I was ready to go home, to get my own place, live on my own again, back in Southern California, where I grew up, where my whole support system is. And driving home with a buddy from Omaha all the way back to Long Beach, I didn't realize that the hardest part was yet to come. And that was being back home, no structure, no purpose, having to rebuild my whole community from scratch. And I fell into a depression. I didn't have to work, and I was blessed to have that. But sitting in bed for a whole week not having to do anything, that messes with you. And I knew that I had to re-engage with my entire community and get back out there and be active. And thanks to my community and thanks to foundations like the Be Perfect Foundation, The Perfect Step, as well as some things for me personally, Reboot and The Perfect Institute, that helped me rebuild my purpose, rebuild pretty much my whole identity. If it wasn't in the military, what was it going to be in? And I found it in sports, I found it back in my church, and I found it in my friends and family. The main takeaways from all this, the first thing is that, whoops, let's see if it's here. Maybe it's actually in the back. Yeah, it's not, change comes fast. Change is inevitable, it was thrust upon me, but ultimately change became my doing. And I also established some core values, and that's in faith. And essentially, faith broken down to faith in God, right, to remind me that there's still a life worth living, even after injury. Faith in myself to maintain that resilient mindset, to maintain that self-discipline, to keep going and stay engaged and stay active in my community. And then faith in my community to remind me that I was never climbing alone and to keep supporting me even at times when I wanted to give up. Faith is what allowed me to turn my mountain into my message, and it's what's helped me repurpose myself. And that new purpose statement is this, right? It's to live life to the fullest, despite my injury, and to continue to build on my story, to use that to inspire and uplift others, just like Will did for me. And so I want to thank you guys, thank my community, and thank my whole support system for staying engaged, staying involved, and helping people like me rebuild their whole lives. So thank you.
Christian, you certainly have taken your mount, and it has become your message. Very well done. Thank you for serving, Christian. This next speaker, he's more like a little brother to me than anything else. His name is Adler Cottle. Adler, he's traveled far. Not just in miles, but in personal transformation. Adler's 19 years old. He's from Oklahoma. And at the pinnacle of his motocross racing career, when he got his pro card just 1 year ago this week, he sustained a life-altering injury. It was September 14th of last year. This crash resulted in a T5 burst fracture, leaving him paralyzed from the mid-chest down. While that moment changed the course of his life, it did not change his spirit. The Be Perfect Foundation has had the privilege of sponsoring Adler to come out to California to extend his stay and to continue to receive treatment at the Perfect Step. What began as a temporary visit became something much more permanent, because Adler fell in love with the community, the people, the culture, your support. In fact, he's now residing at my parents' house as one of our family members.
We're changing the locks.
So Adler's moved by what Be Perfect has done to serve him. Adler has now committed himself to paying it forward, to giving back. He's begun to pay it forward by speaking, mentoring, inspiring, and dreams of one day returning to the sport of motocross in a different way, as a sports psychologist for professional motocross athletes, giving back to the very sport that defined his own life. From gym workouts to hand cycling, from navigating loss to finding purpose, Adler has learned that living isn't just about moving the body. It starts with moving the mind and choosing a mindset that says, I'm not done yet. Just this week, Adler celebrated 1 year of being injured, yet he's here pushing forward, fighting the good fight. As we welcome Adler to the stage, He wanted to show you the video of his motocross accident. It's not gory, but it might make you cringe. If this is not for you, please feel free to check your head, and we will welcome Matt McConnell to the stage.
Yes, I promise I was professional and not look like in that video. Not my brightest moment. First of all, I just want to thank Hal for the opportunity to even be here and speak with these amazing speakers. Like he said, I'm only 1 year out, so I'm learning as much tonight as probably you guys are about their great lives and everything that they've done after injury. So, yeah, with that being said, I'll basically take you back to the beginning. I haven't really, had much to do after my injury. But from the time I was like 2 years old, I knew I wanted to ride dirt bikes. My dad rode a little bit when I was born, and so that's what sparked my interest and made me want to get into it. So, I told him I wanted to ride dirt bikes, and he was like, okay, that's fine. You got to ride a bicycle first. So I picked that up. I'm sure I fell a few times, but, we figured it out. So yeah, from the very beginning, I was chasing the nationals all over the country as a 4-year-old. Wasn't very good back then, but we made improvements. By the time I was 10 years old, I had won my first national title. That was huge for me. I ended up coming out here right afterwards. Was traveling already without my parents at 10 years old, stayed out here for 2 months, just riding all the local tracks out in California, learning a ton, continued my journey, got better. And then when I was about 14 years old, injuries really started to set in. Believe it or not, this is not my first injury. I'm pretty experienced with it. From the time I was 14 until 18, I had 17 different broken bones. I've had 14 or 15 concussions. I don't know, those run together. 2 different lacerations to my spleen. So injuries were kind of a normal part of my life. Even until this. I don't want to say it prepared me for this, because never once did I think that an injury would result in me not feeling my legs. I knew it was always a possibility. I had heard about it in the sport of motocross multiple times, but I didn't expect it to actually happen. So yeah, nothing truly could have prepared me at all. But I kept coming back from these injuries, kept deciding this is what I wanted to do, even though I had multiple talks with my parents about whether I even wanted to continue racing dirt bikes. The injuries took a really big mental toll on me, not as much physically as mentally. I was struggling a lot with, confidence in myself to come back and compete and be at the top level. Sorry. Yeah, it was, that's what sparked my interest in sports psychology as well, is I just want, to help other athletes that were in my shoes to know that, an injury doesn't define them and they can come back. So to fast forward a little bit, I'll take you into the day of my injury. I was racing a ton. I had just gone professional at this time, so I was making money now. So I obviously was racing every weekend because money's green. I like money. So I decided, I was like, you know what? There's a really good payout at this race. It's a little night race. There won't be anyone there. Me and my buddies will go. It'll be a good time. Day started out normal. You guys don't know what this is, but went to a Brahms that morning and had some biscuits and gravy for breakfast. It was fantastic. Got to the track, practice and everything went good. First 2 motos went good. I had already made like $2,000 that night. I was pumped. For me, broke college kid, I was like, all right, this is sweet. So yeah, I went out. I remember talking to my dad and my buddies before we went out for that moto, and it was like 11:20 or so. And I don't stay up late. Not good at being up late. And I remember telling everyone, I'm like, man, I'm tired. But I was like, I'll be fine. I went out, thought nothing of it. Got a terrible start. Was way in the back. Was working my way through the field as fast as I could. And got a little overly confident, as you can see in that video. Tried to jump a jump that was not meant to be jumped. And feet came off the bike. I didn't get knocked out, but I don't remember laying on the ground. I remember hitting the ground and feeling like my body had been crushed. Didn't know that I couldn't feel my legs when I hit the ground. It wasn't until I was in the ambulance and my best friend was standing next to me, and I looked at him and I'm like, am I paralyzed? And he said, I don't know, but you say you can't feel your legs. And that's kind of when I realized that I looked down and couldn't feel anything from about mid-chest down. So as you can imagine, those first few minutes were pretty tough. Everything I had worked for 15 years had been ripped away from me in 2 seconds just from hitting the ground. I had no other plans other than to be a professional motocross racer. That was my goal my entire life. That's all I had ever worked for. I had sacrificed so much just to get to the point I was. And so for it all to be ripped away in an instant like that, it set in pretty hard immediately. When I got to the hospital, they told me the list of injuries I had a few things wrong, but obviously the T5 burst fracture was by far the worst. They told me that I would never walk again. They told me I had a 1% chance of walking. And I remember telling my friends, yeah, we'll see. I hadn't really listened to doctors previously, so didn't think I'd do it again. They told me I had no chance. I had to wait 2 days to even get surgery, which is not ideal for my situation, but it happened. Got surgery, finally got to rehab, and just, changed my focus. I had already been training and working out my entire life. That was what consumed my life. That's what I love to do. So I didn't look at therapy any different. I loved going to therapy every day. It was the only thing I had to do at that time, so it was my favorite thing to do. If you would have told me 1 year ago today when I'm laying in a hospital bed that I still wouldn't be walking, I probably would have told you, so I failed. Well, that's far from the truth. I, got the opportunity after I got out of inpatient therapy. I went home and spent Christmas. I got the great opportunity from the Be Perfect Foundation to come out to California and, try to see what I could get back. I had heard from a few different people that the Perfect Step was the best place to be. So I figured I'd come out and give it a shot. Like I said, I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity from my parents, and me and my dad drove out here in January. I was staying in a hotel for my first month and a half here. Ended up meeting Hal and Lori in the Perfect Step one day and got to move in. So my last name says Cottle up there, but it should say /Hargrave.
Your rents do.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Actually, talk to that man sitting next to you. Yeah, so like I said, I truly do feel like I'm part of the family now. And, Hal over here has as much crap as I like to give him, and I like to go back and forth with him. He's truly a mentor to me and has helped me through more than he even knows in the early stages of this injury. I'd like to say that I'm getting further along, but this year went by so fast. I still feel like I got injured yesterday, and I'm still learning more and more every day at Perfect Step. From from my specialists to, other clients and the community that has been built there. It's truly a blessing. This community overall is the greatest community I think I've ever been a part of. The support you get from other people that are injured and, their families, my specialists, me and Kristen down here are real good friends now. Me and Hal are good buddies. I have, a ton of friends that I met through the Perfect Step. So I truly wouldn't trade that for the world. I have also gotten the opportunity from being out here and meeting people. I would like to say that I have lived more in this past year after being put in a chair than I did my entire 18 years of living before. I was always training to become a professional athlete. I had one goal in mind. So there wasn't anything else. I was prone to getting injured every time I hit the ground. So we didn't do anything else. I was scared to get hurt doing anything else other than racing. So I didn't live much. I didn't have much of a childhood, and I was fine with that. I was fine with sacrificing my life to achieve what I wanted. So after this injury, it gave me an opportunity to truly branch out and have a life outside of dirt bikes. I had never been skiing before. I went skiing for the first time. It was great. I had really never been to the lake before, and anyone who knows Hargraves, they're big lake people. So, and yeah, Lori was not happy about me getting on the tube, but we'll keep that on the DL. So yeah, it was, I've gotten to do that. I have even gotten back on a dirt bike, which a lot of people have heard. It didn't go well. I fell again, knocked myself out. So my parents weren't too happy about that. But live and learn. We'll have a better setup next time. It will happen again. I know I'm kind of rambling here, but this life that I have lived this past year, I tell people all the time, I would go back and restart from the very beginning, even knowing that this was the outcome. I would truly do it all again. There's no doubt in my mind. I would go through this injury again. I would do anything for this last year of life that I've had. I'm very excited to see what my life holds, in the oncoming years. I have great mentors to learn from with the Hargraves, and everyone that I'm meeting, still continuing to meet. And so, I just can't thank everyone enough to even have the opportunity to be here. I don't feel I'm to the level of any of these other speakers that are here, but I'm giving it my best shot. So, I just want to say thank you, and I look forward to continuing.
As you can see, Adler always is prone to giving it his best shot. Lies beyond his years. And I'd like to think for somebody like Adler, he talked a lot about this finish line. And in his life, there was a constitution of failure and success determined by that finish line and those results. For somebody like Adler, who led to believe, the world believes he's so resilient, so talented, they've just moved that finish line for him because the life he had previously was too easy to his grief. You can see what he can do with the moving finish line. He just simply does not stop. Adler caught him. I'd now like to talk about a friend that ironically was one of the first people I ever met after my injury. I joke with her about this, and she does have the ability to kick, so she might kick me under the table. I actually went to go visit her in the hospital and got denied. It was the first time I felt real shame post-accident. It's a joke. But she wasn't ready. I I can tell you now, the processing wasn't ready then, but the progress now speaks for itself. Natalie Bucos was named 2025 Orange Coast Magazine's top badass woman in business. Natalie was 15 years old when her life changed. She'll tell you more about it here shortly. This was just days before her 16th birthday. There was questions like this. How would you process learning how to breathe and sit up independently again? When you have everything taken away from you, you can either stay stagnant or move forward, despite all circumstances stacked against you. Natalie chose bravery to move forward. Through Natalie's injury, recovery, she was told she would never be independent. Work, use her hands, legs, walk or live a fully independent, purposeful life again. Natalie had to relearn basic tasks like folding a fork to feed herself, putting on her shoes, typing on a computer, texting. Through her recovery, Natalie's supporters coined her positive and a confident attitude. Through her spinal cord injury, we call it Natitude. This is her defined persona, a persistence to never give up despite her circumstances. As time has gone on, Natalie's continued to defy all odds by walking at high school graduation, attending USC, and earning her bachelor's degree in public relations and business, and becoming one of the first ever disabled producers with a spinal cord injury to trailblaze in the field. She's worked alongside some of the top celebrities and their talents in the world, including celebrity psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Amen. Natalie's drive is an example to not only to never give up, but also that it doesn't matter how slowly you move, so long as you keep pushing forward. She believes that sometimes your purpose and calling isn't how you imagined. It's even something bigger. Please join me in welcoming Natalie.
I do like to defend myself in that I did turn away at the hospital. And he was right. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to face my new reality at all. And in honor of the theme, because your girl loves a theme, in Stories That Move Mountains, I think we can all together join in my topic, and that my mountain is me. And I want to share tonight how I learned how to climb my mountain, even though I couldn't walk. So I want to take you back to the beginning. So I get asked this often, and I'm sure many people in chairs can relate to this. What is it like to be paralyzed? And I think the answer would likely shock many of you. The hardest thing about being paralyzed isn't not being able to walk. It isn't having mobility issues. At least for me. It's so much deeper than that. Because when I think about my injury and what I've gone through and so much more, it's not just about the external. The external, the wheelchair, my biggest trauma that you all see is not my mountain. But we're going to get into that. The hardest mountain that I had to climb, and I think so many of us can agree, was the one inside of me. It was my fears. It was my insecurities. It was my loss of identity. And I'm here to remind you that anything that can be taken away from you, and I don't want to get too preachy, is not your identity. This was me. I like to refer to this as old me, which sounds funny because you're like, okay, well, you're still the same guy. You're like, are you? But I like to refer to myself in two different halves. I have old Natalie, living half of my life disabled, able-bodied and half of my life not. But this was me. I thought that I was just gonna be an elite athlete. I was gonna play softball at a D1 college. I was super competitive, like so many of the amazing speakers tonight. So competitive. And also, like Rosa said, felt like I knew everything at 15 years old. I had my whole life figured out. And it's so crazy because I think that in so many ways, I thought being physically strong, being able to run, being able to swim around the pier, that's what I thought real strength looked like. And I had no idea what real strength looked like. Until I met my mountain. This was when we all had flip phones. Can you tell the quality? Can you believe that? Can you think about that, Hal? Imagine if we had like 4K iPhones when we were injured. Horrible! Anyways, meeting my mountain. I want to share, I'm not going to go so deep into it because tonight is about hope, like Chelsea shared. But I do think it's important to recognize where you were to realize how far you've come. And for me, I was 15 years old where I went on a ski trip in Big Bear, California. And for those of you who are local here, Big Bear has not awesome snow. And it was really icy when I decided to go skiing. And I caught too much speed. I ended up going up really high on a lip of snow, landed on my tailbone, and ended up sustaining a whiplash injury that broke my C5, C6 vertebrae, leaving me paralyzed from the neck down. And I remember laying flat in the snow and thinking, again, a naive 15-year-old, and I was telling Adler backstage, I had never even broken a bone before. She had 17 on me. I had none. I didn't have a sprain. Crazy. And I remember sitting face down in the snow thinking, why can't I move? Why can't I get up? And essentially was suffocating in the snow because of the spinal cord injury. Obviously, you're not going to move somebody when they say they can't move. And so I want to turn it back to this, but for me, my mountain wasn't my accident. My mountain was not my disability. My mountain was not my new diagnosis, and my mountain sure wasn't my wheelchair. My mountain was so much deeper than that. And I want everyone in the room to take a second to think about yours. I pray to God that no one you love or yourself has to endure a spinal cord injury. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But every single person in this room right now has a mountain. Is it a depression? Is it loss? Is it grief? Think about it. Because we'll get to the end. We're going to do an exercise together. I know I'm one of the last speakers, but I'm hoping we still have some energy in here. But my fear, I remember like Chelsea shared, my fear sitting in that hospital bed, it was so much greater than why can't I move? It was my fear that why I'm not going to be able to play sports again. Who am I going to be if I can't do what I've always done? I had spent 15 years building the identity that I thought I was supposed to live. So, like many of our amazing speakers talked about tonight, I had two choices. I could learn how to climb a mountain. And mind you, let's think about a quadriplegic, for example. No movement, no feeling, neck down. Why doesn't everybody just itch their face for a second? Nope, you can't do that. Pick up your phone. Nope, you can't do that. Lean over to scratch your back. Can't do that. Tie a shoe. Can't do that. And so, in learning to climb, I want to talk about what that looked like. And we're all here tonight because of the Be Perfect Foundation. And Hal and I like to say that I'm like one of the OG, Chelsea too. Chelsea, Hal, and I, we all met at a place called Project Walk in Carlsbad. And I remember with Hal, we would always joke that I'm like, we're all like a part of this really, I'm not going to use an F-bomb because my mom's in the crowd, but messed up club that none of us wanted to be a part of, yet we all are so similar. We're all so driven. We're never going to give up, and we all have each other. And that was my first sense of community after my injury. I was like, wow, I'm not like a fish out of water. I have friends. And learning more about Hal and his friendship, I learned about the foundation. And his foundation was so gracious to sponsor physical therapy for me. Can anybody just take a guess what a catastrophic injury costs in the United States? And mind you, I got injured back in 2008. We're in 2025, where we know inflation is raging. Anybody want to take a guess? Million. $2.3 million in the United States for a spinal cord injury. Can you imagine spending $1 million on something you don't want? Yeah, me either. And so getting to my mountain and everybody's mountain that's shared, I want to ask you, what is your mountain? And since I'm sitting up here so bravely, 4 limbs impacted, talking about how I climbed mine, I wonder, is anybody brave enough in the audience to stand up and share theirs? Thank God.
The mountain for me was, how am I going to be the parent to my kid who had dreams? And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cry, but she's
It's okay.
badass. Her mom.
But I think at the end of the day, every single person in this room has a choice. And you don't have to have a spinal cord injury, and you don't have to have something horrible happen to you to be able to go into the pain. You can let it crush you, or you can climb. But the only way you're going to climb is if you're surrounded by people like Hal Hargrave, like his wonderful foundation, like the amazing, important people in your life. And you know what? I want to also leave you with this, is because we didn't have a lot of shares in the audience, and that's okay. I would let Hal into my hospital room. Remember that? I was maybe in your shoes. Do you know how much courage it takes to allow yourself to be seen? To allow yourself to share your trauma. Because you know what trauma does? It unites us, because we're all human beings and we all go through things. Some of us wear them on the outside. And I always joke, all my able-bodied friends, y'all get to carry it on the inside. But I'm so grateful to be able to be here and to share with you, because in this world, our current state of the world, we could use a lot more Hal Hargraves. We can use a lot more Pete Kirkes. And foundations don't just stick around for over decades without support of amazing people like you. So I'm not going to get too preachy, because I don't know if that was a part of the curriculum. But as a believer, it feels wrong to not stand up here and know that if you have Jesus with you, who shall you fear? May God bless you. I'm Natalie.
Some attitude right there, as you say. Natalie, what an abdominal spirit that girl is, and you can see why it's a privilege to call her a dear friend. Before I share my closing address with all of you, I want you to indulge into this video, so check this out.
Take you out and see the breaking news and call it friendships. I don't know. I can too. Well, look at this, how scary you. Someone was trapped underneath the vehicle inside. No one on the condition of the driver either in the situation.
Hal, open your eyes. Look around. You're close to flatlining. You've been through something horrific. You've been set back physically. But I'm going to shake you right now. Wake up. You won't believe me when I tell you this, but your life has actually just begun. You're going to be a part of changing the world that you think is broken. The cliche nature of your life flashes before your eyes was completely evident. I was thinking about, did I tell my mom I loved her as I walked out the door? I get in immediately to CAT scan and MRI. They assess my injuries. And given those immediate results of you have a 1 to 3% chance ever to walk again, I think a lot of people run to the 97% that says you won't. And my mind just focuses on the 3%. I just said game on. That's all I need. Just a little bit of hope. There's always going to be those challenges. You wake up some mornings and you don't have it, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So if you change the field of view, so to speak, you remove yourself and take a step back, and you start to see the world differently. You recognize the beauty of what's right in front of you. So it was very evident what I was called to do post-accident, post-injury, was to solve a problem that was right in front of me. The problem was people were underserved in this community. We need an establishment of a facility for people to come and get physical-based recovery. So we built what's now known as the Perfect Step Rehabilitation Center. It was kind of a build it and they'll come mentality. As a community and a family, we came together to solve that huge problem. The people that leave the building every day with a tenacious purpose to pursue life because they're confident in who they are again, that is the perfect step forward. The step in the direction of living life again. And we see that every single day at the Perfect Step. Secondarily, the Be Perfect Foundation. Kind of the cornerstone of my passion project in my life, to really serve the paralysis community and their financial needs for a myriad of things in our program services related to medical necessities, supplies, wheelchairs, home and car adaptations equipment, and financial support for therapy programs.
He gets to be the voice for people who feel like they don't have a voice anymore. The world's not made for people with chairs. The world's not made for people with disabilities. He is the voice for this community to bring change and to make change.
I'm symbolic of one of billions of stories to say that the life that you had is now behind you, but the life that you will have is in front of you. If you want to go fast in life, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
It's the biggest mountain you've ever had to face. We've all had them. Maybe you're climbing one right now. Maybe it was a diagnosis, a phone call, a time of loss, a moment that split your life into before and after. For me, it was in 2007. A car crash. It broke my neck. In fact, it nearly broke me. A doctor telling me I'd likely never walk again. A future that felt like it disappeared in a split second. In a moment, the mountain in front of me didn't just feel massive, it felt insurmountable. But over time, something began to shift like tectonic plates. People stepped in. They stepped up. They stepped forward, supporting me. You were those people. You are those people. It allowed me to take one small step, and then another, and another. And that's when I came across this quote. You don't have to move the whole mountain, just move your stone. This quote's been with me for years. A simple but profound truth. If there's one message I hope that you carry with you from tonight, it's this. Because here's the truth, none of us can do it all. In fact, none of us can do it alone. But each of us can do something. And if we all move our stone, our part, our voice, our effort, we can collectively move mountains together. You see, in life, one voice is powerful. It can be profound. But many voices create this rigor of noise that cannot be ignored. Like the analogy of the stick, one is easily picked up and broken, but a pile of them, they become unbreakable, unshakable. And when each of us moves in unison with heart, conviction, and purpose, we don't just change lives, we change legacies.
18 years ago, I faced this mountain head on. It looked much bigger than Mount Baldy as I know it. In fact, it was my Mount Everest. A crash, a broken neck, a spinal cord injury at the cervical fifth vertebrae level. A doctor's voice telling me that walking again might never be possible. And it changed as quickly as I just said it. In those early days, it felt like I was buried under that mountain, physically, emotionally, mentally. It took its toll. What once felt limitless now felt incredibly confining. And that's when something remarkable happened. You showed up. Donors, many of whom I didn't even know, they moved these stones aside for me. You gave generously. You extended perspective when mine was narrow. You wrapped me in love and in support when I didn't even know how to ask for it. And slowly the weight began to lift. Unfortunately, it's reoriented itself right here, but that's a conversation for another time. But at the fog that I looked out at, it suddenly began to clear. You helped me see that there was still life ahead of me. A life worth living, a life worth committing to, growing in and building through. And it's because of that belief that I began to move my own stones, one at a time. I continue to remind myself that I have to go through things to get things. And these things that I want to get, the first one was be perfect. This grassroots foundation that has stood the test of time for nearly 2 decades, in a young 17-year-old's mind, it was simply just an idea. That garnered clarity over time because of you, it became a vision. And because of you, it's become a reality. Together, we've raised $10 million for this community. But what makes me proudest isn't the amount. It's what we've done with the amount and our time. 99.9% of our program services are because of you and the dollars you give. Because no one takes a salary. We don't have paid staff. Meaning that we stay true to what we do. As a 100% volunteer organization, that means that every dollar you give goes straight to therapy sessions like Adler's and Natalie's and Chelsea's. Serving the people and the lives of those in this community so people like Rosa can do more with her gifts and people like Christian can serve our country. And people like Chelsea can liberate a whole community and Natalie can lead with her attitude to leave an impact on you and I. And Adler can get right back to the starting line so he can finish his race. You've helped these people not just survive, but continue their story. You've given them the means to heal, to recover, to believe in something again. You've allowed them to pursue the possibility of just one more time. The pursuit of joy, freedom, independence. And in a world where so many people with paralysis are forced to choose between basic needs and progress, you stepped in to say, I've got you, and we'll walk this with you. But from there came the perfect step. Therapy, recovery, a center, a place of healing, where people there are much more than just their diagnosis. We address physical healing, yes, but we do so much more. We build a network. We create belonging, a community, purpose, and hope. Many people with paralysis are confined by their bodies. Some of them even more than just their bodies, also their minds. Also, in a physical sense, they're confined by the walls of their homes, their limitation to access, and the isolation that often comes with an injury and diagnosis. The perfect step pushes down those walls and moves those stones with partners like Casa Colina. partners like the Triumph Foundation and many more, we can create a place where people begin to live again. Something they once believed was no longer possible, because for so long they tied this idea of living to their ability to move. Little do we know, moving is only a constitution in our minds. That is the determination of how we live. Living is this mindset. It's deliberate. It's a choice to show up, to engage, to grow. It's waking up and deciding with delineation that your life, my life, still has value, meaning, purpose, and just maybe your pain and purpose can intersect. That's what real living is. At the Perfect Step, we don't just help people move again. We help them believe. We help them rebuild a life beyond just survival, but one that's filled with identity, possibility, and purpose. And now, Wings for Life. I've stepped into a role as a global captain ambassador for Wings for Life. They are the not-for-profit organization of Red Bull. Yes, Red Bull, the energy drink. They do give you wings. I've taken on this purpose to advocate for a global community that's tied to this global company that has one profound mission: to solve this very challenging mountain that I sit amongst you today. While things like the Perfect Step and the Be Perfect Foundation address the here and now, it's organizations like Wings for Life that might allow me and us to move beyond it. Wings for Life is a nonprofit organization that has a singular goal: to cure this injury. And what's incredible, the old adage of we're 5 years away from a cure. It's not just talk anymore. I actually believe it. Wings for Life has funded over 300 research projects, raised over $54 million for research towards a cure. And if the Be Perfect Foundation and the Perfect Step can continue to help people right now, we can prepare them for the future of what may come in the form of resources, recovery, purpose, and a cure. A world where we don't just survive paralysis, but we can actually overcome it. A world where one day I'll walk alongside of each and every one of you, or at the very least, Andre in heaven. And I owe that to every one of you for the steps you've walked alongside of me. That's the mountain I try to move every single day. And each of these organizations, Be Perfect, the Perfect Step, and Wings for Life, are the stones I'm moving to do it. You see, of all the mountains I've faced, of all the ones I've tried to overcome since my injury, one of the most personal ones, the one that I thought would stand permanently pat in my life, was the ability to become a father. It's one of the first questions that many of us ask when they're injured. Will I ever be able to have children? And for years, that question haunted me. Through 4 years of infertility and nearly a half a dozen lost embryos, and more than 1,000 injections I watched go into the flesh of my wife's body, while she made it all possible, I wasn't sure we'd ever get here 2 kids later. But by the grace of God and with the strength of selflessness of one of the most incredible partners I could have asked for, we've been blessed with these kids, and my life and my mountain has changed. This mountain moved aside, and I did not move it alone. And if I can take anything away from the past 18 years, or better yet, for the first 36 years of my life, it's this: if you don't address moving your mountain early, it settles. And when it settles, it grows. Like tectonic plates shifting beneath the surface during hard times, the pressure builds silently, invisibly, until one day it feels completely immovable. You see, the one thing about these very mountains is the longer we ignore them, the more permanent they become. But one thing is certain, you were never meant to move those mountains alone. So if there's a mountain in your life, don't wait for it to become a monument. Start with your stone and let others help you lift the ones around it. To each of our speakers tonight, I'm humbled by your bravery. Thank you for reminding us what resiliency looks like. Thank you for helping us to see the real struggle doesn't roar, it rises. And look at you, Chelsea, becoming a mom of what that might mean to you, an ambassador, and how you constitute bravery every day. Rosa, I look at your resiliency to endure the unfathomable and to somehow come out ahead and smiling. And I think of you, Christian, and how you served our country, and how you wake up to continue to serve with the mentality as if you are still flying with your wings. And I look at you, Adam, and what it must be like to maybe see a career pass you by, but even a greater one that lies ahead, with a finish line that only you can pass. And I think of you, Natalie, and how you've taken on this spirit of an attitude. And you've redefined what mountains look like in your life through a profound perspective, to know that the mountain is only as large as you make it in your mind. Each of you, you've moved mountains on your own. And every one of you here in this crowd has done exactly just that yourself. Whether it's been your own mountains of grief, loss, limitation, social isolation, or maybe even your dreams shattered, you've stood in front of those mountains and said, I will not be defined by this. In fact, that's the very precipice of how you sit here today, a better and stronger being. You've redefined what it means to adapt. You've reimagined what it looks like to fight, and you've inspired everyone in this room, including us on stage, that moving forward is not only possible, in fact, it's the only direction. And for all of us, we've all chosen here on this stage tonight, the six of us, to not just speak, but to invite all of you, our supporters and our donors, in. And because of that, every single person in this room is leaving changed. And to you, our donors, the mountains you've moved, you may not always see the direct result of your giving, but I do. You may not know every name, every face, or every story that you touch, but I do. And I promise you, the ripple effect of your generosity has reached farther than you'll ever know. Because of you, a mother was able to put her child through therapy for the first time. Because of you, somebody regained the confidence to apply for a job again. And because of you, a family felt seen, felt held, felt hope. You've already done so much, and tonight I'm not asking you to do more. I'm asking you to just simply move your stone. What's the next one you're going to move? It may be your continuation of support for us. It may be encouraging someone else to join this mission. Or at the very least, it may be speaking up for another cause, another person that you deeply care about, and bringing awareness to a space that is very invincible. It may be something personal, a challenge you're carrying, a relationship that needs healing, a mountain in your own life that's waiting to be moved. But whatever it is, don't let the size of the mountain deter you from saying, yes, I'm ready. So let's go back to where we started tonight. You don't have to move the whole mountain. You just have to move your stone. Your stone may feel small. Your role, your purpose, it might seem insignificant to you, but let me just tell you, when it's stacked beside every other person's stone in this crowd, it becomes this massive monument that we all can only move together. One voice alone can be powerful, but many voices together is a force. One act of generosity makes the world of difference, but many acts changes the landscape of our world. Your purpose is not what you do. It's in what happens in and through others when you do what you're doing. Thank you for every stone you've moved, for every step you've walked beside me, and for the mountains we'll continue to move together. So let's keep climbing, building, and believing. Thank you for being here tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure of mine, of ours, of my family's, of the foundation's. And for our 5 guest speakers, can we please just give them a roar and a force of applause? So I would like to thank for coming tonight. I would like to remind you that an opportunity for us to commune together comes in just 6 months' time. On April 18th, we'd love for you to join us at our annual scholarship gala. It's going to be yet again in Pomona at the Pomona Fairplex. And yes, we are going to have a casino night. Ricky, we're going to gamble. We're going to have fun. We are going to do it like they did it in Ocean's 11. So we want you to come pull off a great heist with us on April 18th. We want to steal back people's dignity, their hope, and we can do that with you. We can't wait to see you there. So I would love to thank every one of you for being here tonight. Our painter, Tom Clark. Our guitarist, Russell. Jennifer, Tom, and the team here at the Rivian Theater. Please enjoy your night and be safe. I'm looking back at my dad right now. He asked me earlier today, so are we going to invite everybody back to our house? I'm doing the invite. If you want to come up to the Laguna house, come hang out with us. Sorry, Pops, we're having a late night. These people jumping fun. We will supply the booze and the good times. You've just got to bring your heart. So let's hang out. This place closes up in about 15 minutes time. Let's leave this place as we found it. And if anything else, I hope your heart leaves changed tonight. So I love you all. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Have a good night.